Okay, so hi everyone, and welcome back to the Fentech HTML course. So throughout the week, I got some comments that using Notepad is actually very stressful. So I decided to switch up and use Visual Studio Code. Now I just found out that if you're using an HP laptop like me, you could actually download Visual Studio Code. Now note that Visual Studio Code and Visual Studio are two different apps. The one your laptop can't carry is the Visual Studio, but the one your laptop can carry is Visual Studio Code, and that's what I'm using. So if you look down here, this this is the icon for Visual Studio Code, so you can download it and you can actually use it. Now the benefit of Visual Studio Code is that it's easy to use. That's unlike Notepad where you have to write everything from scratch. Visual Studio Code, like once you type something, it can actually bring out the remaining parts of the sentence for you. It's very easy. So we are going to start with the HTML boilerplate. Now, before I continue, we're just going to move forward on our classes. It's just that we are switching the app or the means that we are using. You could actually do everything we learned on Notepad. You can actually try it on your Visual Studio Code. And for those that don't want to use Visual Studio Code, because people have preferences, they might prefer Notepad. So if you still want to use Notepad, you can still try out everything we do here on Visual Studio Code on Notepad. This is just kind of like an update. So now I've shown you how to use Notepad. So now I want to show another way of doing HTML or building a website, and that's by using Visual Studio Code. So like I said, whatever we're doing on Visual Studio Code, you can do it on Notepad. And the Visual Studio Code users, we're just going to move forward, we're not going to move backwards. So what if you need to learn from beginning and you want to use Visual Studio Code, you could go back to our YouTube page and watch the videos. That is the last 6 videos. Yeah, the last 6 videos that was posted. You can watch them and try them out using your Visual Studio Code. So let's try something. We are going to start with our doc type. Okay, so let's just start with what is HTML so that we can, a brief summary. So we're going to start with our doc type HTML. Now as you can see, Visual Studio Code makes it more lively as the colors we are seeing. Some people don't like working in a place where they don't see the colors actually. Now, for this Visual Studio Code, if your code is wrong, it's going to show red. But if it's correct and it's in line, it will show you blue. Unlike Notepad that won't easily correct you, everything is just plain white and black. You won't know when you're wrong or when you're correct until you view it on your web browser. So that's the difference between that. So like we said in our previous videos, this doc type HTML is a declaration which defines that this document is a HTML document. And the next, after the doc type, we're going to move into our HTML elements. Now, okay, have you seen this is one of the benefits of Visual Studio Code? I didn't have to waste my time typing that is the closing tag of the HTML elements. So I'm just going to come here and press enter. Then inside the HTML element we have the head element. Now as you can see, what I meant by when it's wrong, we haven't finished writing the head element and this is already showing us red. That's because it's not complete. But if it was on Notepad, it should have just been white and black. We wouldn't have known. And there are sometimes that maybe we might be under pressure building a website that we might actually forget to put the other anchor. So we're just going to do that and close. Then inside the head element, let's put our title. Our title is for like when we open the web browser, what we are going to see. So title here, and it's going to be what is HTML, then title. So now we're going to move over to the body elements, which has to come after the head elements. So we're going to open a body tag, close it, enter. Now inside this our body elements, that's where we can have our key element, which is our paragraph and the rest. So now let's just do a brief summary of the ones we have here. Like I said, the doc type HTML is a declaration that defines that the document is a HTML document, and the HTML element is the root element of a HTML page, while the head element contains meta info about the HTML page. If you go through our previous videos, you'll see when I talked about meta elements. We have different meta elements which I talked about. So we go over to the title element. The title element specifies a title for the HTML page, which is shown in the browser's title bar or in the page tab. That's if you open your web browser now, Google, that tab that comes over is going to be what is HTML that is going to appear there. And the body element defines the document's body and is a container for all the visible content such as paragraphs, images, hyperlinks, tables, lists, headings, and the rest. And okay, the P element defines a paragraph. Remember in our last videos we talked about the H1 to H6 elements, and the H1 element defines a large heading. So now let's talk about web browsers. The purpose of a web browser, which is Chrome, Edge, Firefox, Safari, is to read HTML documents and display them correctly. So a browser does not display the HTML tags, but uses them to determine how to display the documents. So next we are going to move to HTML documents. So all HTML documents must start with a document type declaration, which we have already done. And the document itself begins with the HTML element, which we have there, and ends with the closing tag of the HTML, which is this over here. Now, HTML headings, which we have already defined. So we are going to start with our okay, we've talked about the HTML headings, which is from H1 to H6. So if you see this, Visual Studio Code helps to also explain each element. Like as you can see here, we have the HTML element represent the root of an HTML document, which is what I already said. If you go to the title element represents the document's title or name. Authors should use titles that identify their document even when they are used out of context. For example, in a user's history or bookmarks or in search results. So that's what the title is for. Let's look at our doc type. Okay, so I think my network has gone down again. Yeah. So back to what we're doing. So for today's class, I think we are going to move over to just okay, we're going to start with a P paragraph first. So first I want us to like just test run this Visual Studio Code so that people get to know what it's about and how to use it and all, and also how to save and the rest. So let's start with um H1. What is HTML? And then close, and then we have our P paragraph. Let's say HTML stands for hypertext markup language, and then close. We can also open our P paragraph again and say let's say HTML describes the structure of a web page, and we close it. I want us to have like 3 to 4 paragraphs. It can be like HTML is the standard markup language for creating web pages. Okay, so we're going to save this. So unlike Notepad, where we save it as HTML code, HTML code .html, we just have to change this text to HTML, and we are going to save it under yes. So I've saved that. So all I need to do now is to come to my web browser, and as you can see, I have it here. So I'm just going to right click and open with Google Chrome. Yes, so we just have to wait for that to load, and boom, we have our web page of what is HTML. We have our 3 paragraphs that we wrote, and also something else. If you want to open, let's say there's a mistake and you want to open it with and like to edit, and let's say you've closed your Visual Studio Code, you could actually come here once you have downloaded the once you have downloaded the Visual Studio Code, you can always open anything with it. So it's going to appear and it's going to load, and whatever we coded is going to appear even if you went out of the Visual Studio Code. As long as you saved it, it's always going to appear. So now this was already a part that I opened. So if you want to open a new page, all you have to do is come here. Like now I want everything to enter the dog photo app, so all I do is click here, new file, and let's say the next thing I'm going to HTML basis. Yeah, press enter, and as you can see, it has come here. So I can just click here and it goes off, and I can start writing my code. If I want to go back to the next one, I can go back. If I want to come back here, I can. So you can actually use this. So that will be all for this video. So I just wanted to show you guys the interface of how Visual Studio Code looks like I said, there are two different, Visual Studio and Visual Studio Code. We are making use of the Visual Studio Code, and don't forget, this is the icon for Visual Studio Code. So you can always download it, and I'm very sure you're going to have a great experience. But if you still prefer your notepad, no problem, you can still use your notepad. That's for you. So I hope you enjoyed this one, and watch out for the next video. Thank you.